Welcome to the March 5th Committee of the Whole meeting, which I now will call to order. Having now returned from a medical leave absence, I wanted to extend my thanks and appreciation to all members of Council for their support while I was away. I also want to thank our senior management team members of our community for the support and the messages of well wishes. I'm back. Before moving to the agenda, on behalf of Council, I extend condolences on the passing of the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney, who passed away on February 29th at the age of 84. As the 18th Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Mulroney will be remembered for his historical legacy he leaves behind. He was also a son, a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a friend. Our thoughts and sympathies are with his family and all who knew him. We will now observe a moment of silence. We will now move to item B. Declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest at this time? Seeing none, I will proceed to our land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nation and other Indigenous peoples. And on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental steward of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. We are at item D, community announcements. Friday, March the 8th is International Women's Day. The theme is Let's Inspire Inclusion. Our town is hosting a day at the sports complex with guest speakers and presentations. More information can be found on the town's website, including how to register. Are there any other community announcements from members of Council? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's certainly good to have you back in the chair. I just wanted to mention that on February the 24th, Team EG walked for the coldest night of the year in support of Blue Door Shelters. Mayor Haxton joined me, Councillor Roy-DiClemente, Chris Ross, one of our staff members. I believe we had 3 paid on-call firefighters walk with us. Team EG raised $6,000, which is nothing to be ashamed of. I'd also like to thank Gina Casey, who works in our office upstairs, who did a tremendous amount of work for this. Thank you.
Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and indeed, welcome back. I have a couple of things I just wanted to say. We have on March 30th the Easter Bunny Hike at the Ross Family Complex, and that starts at, I believe, 10 a.m. So it's always a fun event to come out to. And it, secondly, not so much a community announcement, but I did want to share with Council that I spoke with a friend of Council, Gail Sanderson, on the passing of her husband. We sent her our condolences, of course, and in return, I was speaking with Gail not too long ago, and she wanted to express her gratitude to emergency services. So, Chief, if you can let the men and women know, it was very much appreciated. So thank you for all your assistance there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hay, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, and welcome back, Mayor Haxton. As team captain for this year for the Nature's Emporium Run for South Lake, I would like to invite everyone to save the date of April 28th. And this year we'll be celebrating 100 years of South Lake providing leading edge care close to home. And we're asking everyone to join the Team EG and to rise to the challenge, connecting with your networks and community to this challenge so that we can continue to support leading edge care in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? I'm not seeing any at this point. Are there any community announcements from any member of council? I think we all have them. We will move to item E for deputations. We have no deputations at this time. I will move to item F, and that is presentations, and none at this time. We're at item G, and this is East Gwillimbury Public Library. Welcome. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. And through you, Madam Mayor, first I'd like to say on behalf of the library, it's great to see you back and the Mayor's chair. And members of council, thank you very much for having me today. My name is Ben Van Gorp. I'm the acting deputy CEO of the East Gwillimbury Public Library. Can we go to the next slide, please? Today, I'll begin by introducing our 2023-2026 strategic plan, followed by a summary of our new library services growth plan. The growth plan replaces our previous 2014 master plan and is meant to clearly describe how the library will continue to offer excellent service as our community develops. We will then have a brief period for questions. Next slide, please. Sure. Our strategic plan, available on egpl.ca, sets us off on an exciting journey where we aim to be the community's destination for learning, discovery, and connection. The library has set a new vision, empowering people, enriching lives. Our programs, services, and spaces will provide people access to new ideas, to technology, to community information, to literacy, and to connection, ensuring that everyone has equal access and opportunities to participate. Next slide, please. After a period of public consultation, and thanks to the wisdom of our library board, we have identified 5 core values to guide us: literacy, inclusion, curiosity, connection, and sustainability. We are committed to supporting literacy in all its forms, backing creative expression, and cultivating a love of reading. We will continue to strengthen our abilities to listen, understand, and take action to ensure all voices are represented and that everyone feels safe and included. We will encourage curiosity because it strengthens our ability for deeper awareness and understanding, and it commits us to providing enriching and creative experiences. We will provide meaningful engagement to connect people to what they need to thrive. And finally, we will continue to do our part in a circular economy of borrowing while also educating our community on climate change. Next slide, please. To give us clear steps towards our strategic plan, we've identified 3 major priorities: to build healthy communities, to expand access, and to provide exceptional experiences. Each of these priorities are tied to goals that are attainable in the short and long term. This is the kind of meat of this strategic plan. The library plays an important role in building healthy communities, and we'll do our part by creating opportunities for civic engagement, enriching experiences, social supports, and new opportunities. Our goals over the next few years are to respond to growth, to enrich our programs and partnerships, to cultivate literacy, and to provide outreach services to the community. We will create more ways for you to access information and develop your interests by expanding access in our library. Everyone should enjoy spending time in their library, and we can make that possible by providing safe spaces where literacy can be supported in all its forms. Our goals within this priority are to continue to build a vibrant collection based on community interests that also represents our diverse community, to reduce and remove barriers to discovery by looking closely at our policies, to enhance our spaces so that there are more ways of using the library, and to continue to provide digital literacy opportunities. Last, we will provide exceptional experiences as part of memorable, welcoming, and informative services. Our goals are to support our employees and expand skill sets in response to evolving services, to foster a culture of inclusion, curiosity, and growth, to find new and effective ways to reach more people, to communicate our unique value, to create a distinct brand identity, which is already well on the way, and to continue to evaluate our practices through intentional data collection and feedback. This concludes our review of the 2023 and 2026 strategic plan. We're really looking forward to the next chapter in EGPL and all the optimism and outcomes it will bring to this community. Next slide, please. Now it is time to introduce our library services growth plan. The growth plan has been adapted from the 2022 East Gwillimbury Public Library's Facilities and Services Report and accessibly shows how the library can best serve its growing community in the years ahead. This plan is also available for viewing at egpl.ca. We kind of consider this a view of the future of EGPL. Next slide, please. The stats over the last 5 years tell us one thing quite clearly: our community uses its library. As our population has grown, our usage has grown with it. 1 in 4 residents have a library card, and all it takes is one card in a home to give everyone the opportunity to read and discover. 2022 saw the library break its all-time circulation record, and then we broke that record again in 2023 by 18%. These visitors are not only just checking out books, we're also loaning our special items more and more, like telescopes and literacy kits, which were borrowed 171% more compared to 2022. We're even seeing recovery after the pandemic in the wide ranges of programming available at the library. We're currently offering STEM education, digital literacy classes, makerspace exploration, and literacy-based story times that people attend every single week. Last year, the library had over 13,000 registrants for library programs. We're proud of these accomplishments over the last few years, but new residents do also generate new demands. Many new members of our community have come from larger municipalities and are often used to larger library systems. They have seen what major urban libraries can offer as a center for learning, exploration, and connection. Now coming to East Gwillimbury, they are finding their local libraries up to the task, evolving and offering new services to meet their new demands. EGPL recently joined major library systems in going fines-free during the pandemic, and our partnerships with local groups like the EG Gardeners and the 55 and Up Club allow our new residents easy ways to turn their new house into a home. In creating this plan, we made sure to include the voices of our residents who told us how they found their local library helped them. These are some direct quotes from our consultations. The library cuts costs on families when everything is so expensive. I am so happy with our local branch. We moved here in 2019 and have never felt part of a library branch the way we do now. And finally, with so much in our world now being online, it is important for the youth in our community to be given lots of opportunities to engage and learn together. Next slide, please. Currently, EGPL has 2 physical branches, with 1 more on the way in the Health and Active Living Plaza. We complement our services with a digital branch open 24/7 at egpl.ca and our library lockers in the EG Sports Complex. Both of our physical locations have seen renovations in the last 10 years to make them AODA compliant, and with the opening of the HALP, we have an operational footprint of 31,900 gross square feet. Since 2014 and our last master plan, the library began offering expanded programming, study spaces, maker spaces, and a dedicated food pantry space, all while adapting to modern accessibility design requirements. It's important for the library to continue to adapt and prepare for the next stages of growth that are yet to come. Based on the research performed by TCI consultants, it is recommended that the library adopt a standard of 0.85 gross square feet per capita to meet basic library needs in the community. This accounts for increased need for meeting room space, changes in the AODA, and increased demand for creative spaces. Evaluations by our consultants found that the library's current facilities are outdated and inadequate for meeting the needs of the community, and many of our buildings need significant repairs or upgrades, or they just don't offer enough space to accommodate our programming. The library is currently at a significant deficit of space using this formula, with 13,500 square feet encompassing its 2 branches. When the Health and Active Living Plaza is built, we will significantly reduce that deficit. Our focus with this plan then shifts to the years after the HALP as our population continues to grow. Next slide, please. The Library Services Growth Plan provides 3 recommendations to tackle this deficit. Open the HALP, which is on track and coming very, very soon, sooner by the second, it feels like. Renovate and expand our branch in the Holland Landing Community Center, and to develop a new branch along the Green Lane corridor. Beyond the HALP, the library is currently not collecting any development charges for any additional library space. However, the DC bylaw is currently being updated and will include costs for the Holland Landing expansion, with approval set for May 2024. If approved, the library will begin collecting development charges for this project that will support the additional library space and further reduce this space deficit. The final recommendation to develop the branch along the Green Lane corridor is likely grabbing your attention. We wanted to emphasize that the intent of this is to bring awareness to this underserved and growing area. While the branch itself will be far in the future, it is important that the library board document its interest so that it can inform future decision-making. The first step in this process is a feasibility study to focus specifically on this area, and the library will request this towards the end of this growth plan period. Next slide, please. Now, the original report contained 36 recommendations, which we have organized into 4 categories: responding to growth, programs and services, employee experience, and things to borrow. Of these recommendations, we wanted to highlight a few. Expand Mount Albert and Holland Landing's branch hours of service to include Mondays. Explore complementary partnerships when planning for a new library. Develop and implement a technology plan. Connect people to community and cultural knowledge. Increase library materials budgets to serve a growing community. Expand staff training and customer service orientation. These recommendations address changing circumstances in libraries and new opportunities in our communities. Some are in the short term, while others remain long term, and some have financial impact, while others have more of a human impact. Each one aims to strengthen and modernize the library system for the future. The library will be measuring progress and achievements of each of these recommendations over the next decade, and the recommendations will feed into the library's 4-year strategic plans. Next slide, please. In summary, EGPL is lagging in provisions of library space, staff, and services, a result of an increase to space standards and the fact that the EG is the fastest growing municipality in Canada. Our library services growth plan makes 36 recommendations that will contribute to an attractive and vibrant library. Of the recommendations, the most significant includes the renovation and expansion of our Holland Landing branch, which is currently put forward in the DC bylaw revision, and an earmarked interest in a new facility on the Green Lane corridor if growth continues to meet our expectations. That is it for our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm not seeing any at this time. I wonder, Councillor Roy-DiClemente, would you? Thank you very much. And with that, are there any questions from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much. We now will move to item H, corporate services with Councillor Carruthers in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a presentation today on our environmental strategy, and I'm going to turn it over to Meeta Gandhi as the General Manager of Corporate Services to introduce it. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm very pleased to bring this, we are very pleased to bring this to you. You'll recall that earlier this year, a draft strategy was brought to Council for review, and that was after considerable amount of consultation. That marked in January a period of additional consultation with members of council and with the public through various means, and Chris Ross will be sharing that. I want to also thank the members of council and the community for all of their input, and certainly to Chris Ross for her dedication and drive towards getting this to this point. So with that, I hand it over to Chris Ross.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, members of council, Madam Mayor, and for all the team. Thank you very much for being here this morning. And I am going to try to be as brief as possible because you've known this document for a little while. What I'm going to talk to you today is how the strategy has been, like what the feedback entails during the feedback process from January. So in this slide, you will see like how the timeline has worked, and I would like you to focus on the last 3 parts of that, the draft strategy presented on January 2024. And we had a period of feedback that went from January and February 2024, and we had meetings with members of council, and we received also feedback by email from the community. And also conversations with the staff. And I am here today to present to you the final draft of the environmental strategy, which basically it's a very similar document that the previous one, but I would say improved and enhanced. So how this feedback worked was through communications. We worked with a newsletter, social media, and the website was available for residents. We received feedback from meetings with council members, feedback from the Environmental Advisory Committee, emails from residents, and also meetings with the staff. The feedback that we received from residents, council, and staff was to include an acknowledgement section. We underlooked that, and even though I think the whole team is very proud of and grateful of all the feedback that we had, that was needed to be reflected in the strategy as well. We also included a section on climate change connection to the strategy because, as I think I mentioned to you, to every one of you before, I know this document inside out, and for me it was very obvious that climate change was considered, but when it went out for council, for the public, we received feedback from residents saying that climate change is not part of the strategy. So we needed to make it clear that the strategy is considering climate change, and so it is a section that includes that. We also replaced outreach with engagement to better reflect that it's not the municipality out to the community, it's the municipality inside us with the community and the community with us. So it is a double way relationship with the community and also within the corporation. We included an environmental lens and climate change lens as proposed actions to include climate lens and environmental lens in decision making. And we updated the title of the outreach program to environmental communication strategy, again, to better reflect that our commitment to be engaged with the community and inside the corporation. And we also included final remarks to kind of make a commitment about reporting back to council and the community in the advance of this strategy. So this is what you saw before in January, the 5 areas. Now it's the same areas, but better reflected with engagement in the middle. And so the next step is to finalize and implement the communication strategy, to continue developing and implementing actions, and to develop specific plans. For this year, we are starting with the corporate and community energy plan, the climate action plan, and the Thinking Green Development Standards update. With this, I also want to make it clear that this has been a team effort. It's not Chris Ross or corporate services. It has been the whole town, all the departments, general managers and staff working in this strategy, having feedback, having a lot of input, the community, residents, the Environmental Advisory Committee. So yes, I'm very proud of the product of this strategy, of this document, and all this effort that it's been from everyone, and it is for you to please consider approving this. So any question? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ross. We have this is, first of all, let me just start by saying this is an amazing document. I went through it with a fine-tooth comb because I've been waiting for it for years, and it certainly delivers everything that I was looking for. So thank you very much for that. Is there any questions from members of council or comments? Seeing none, can I have a mover, Councillor Crone? Anything further to add?
Yes, that there were observations that don't change the content of the strategy, but will make the document better. So we are including those changes into the final document that you will see.
Wonderful. And seeing no further questions, I'll call the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Any further comments, Ms. Gandhi, under Corporate Services?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from council or from committee under Corporate Services? Seeing none,
Thank you very much.
I'll turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We are on item I, Parks, Recreation, and Culture, with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item on the agenda today, and it's Parks and Recreation and Culture presentation and memo on the 2023 Recreation and Culture Services update. And I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Karmazin. What do you have to share with us?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Staff have prepared a presentation and a memorandum highlighting the activity in our Recreation, Special Events and Community Engagement branch of the Parks, Recreation and Culture Department. We're pleased to report significant increase in participation, both with our registered programs as well as our special events, due in part to the lifting of pandemic restrictions for 2023, and an increase in our population base due to growth being Canada's fastest growing community. I should note to Council that staff will be providing a separate update specific to special events and referencing our planned special event strategy in 2024 in addition to this update. Presenting today is Rhonda Wilson, our Manager of Recreation Events and Community Engagement, with support from our fantastic recreation staff team. I'll turn things over to Rhonda.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, Madam Mayor. Welcome back, councillors, staff, and to our community members who are watching this morning. My name is Rhonda Wilson. I'm the Manager of Recreation, Community Engagement, and Events for the town, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here today with members of our recreation team, which includes our recreation coordinators, our special events coordinators, and our new aquatic team, as well as we have the chair of the Arts and Culture Committee of Council, Jeanette Champ, here to support us today. Each year, Recreation Services provides an update in the form of a memo on the successes and the growth from the previous year. Today, I'm also here to provide you with an exciting update on what Council and the community can expect from Recreation Services in 2024. Next slide, please. Since the hiring of our aquatic supervisor in September, staff have been focused on planning and developing the aquatic program in preparation for the Health and Active Living Plaza. The aquatic supervisor, Katie Wise-Looney, with support from Daniela Gray and HR, has successfully doubled the number of aquatic staff, which has increased the number of lessons available for the community at the Main Street Aquatic Center. We now offer private swim lessons as an option, and this service has been well received by the community. We are working to add in a third day of lessons in 2024, as well as swimming lessons this summer, which we have never done before. Pool Pals is a new registered program East Gwillimbury will be starting to offer in the spring of 2024. This will allow swimmers who have completed all of their levels to still be engaged in aquatics as we mentor these individuals and work with them to be staff when they are 15 years old. Staff are working with Newmarket and Georgina to prepare for the HELP. This partnership will give us the opportunity to use some of their pool space for wet screenings, advanced courses, and training, which we are currently not able to do in the Main Street pool. Staff have partnered with the East Gwillimbury Public Library to purchase materials in 2024 for the aquatic advanced courses. The ability to sign out the materials from our libraries, which are required to complete the courses, will alleviate any financial barriers for our families, which aligns with our priorities to provide services that are inclusive, affordable, and accessible. So thank you to the library. Next slide, please. Great. We have been noticing more demand for our preschool programming, which has led us to add more programs and options for that age group in 2024. The very popular Kinder School program will be added to facilities in each of the 3 wards this upcoming spring. Currently, we offer it only in 1. We will also be working closely with our partners at the EGPL for our preschool programs and some future exciting events. The EG youth are showing more interest with non-traditional sporting options. We are working with the Youth Advisory Committee of Council to grow these activities, such as youth pickleball, cornhole, and spikeball. As we continue to plan programs, we will be surveying the community at our community engagement events, such as the school open houses that we attend yearly. Staff are also attending the local high schools to promote recruitment, programs, and also the Youth Advisory Committee. Next slide, please. Okay, registration has begun for the 2024 summer camp season. With our largest enrollment in 2023, staff have increased the number of camp available spots for 2024, with plans to have the highest number of enrollment in EG this year. Staff have worked with HR to complete the hiring of staff in 2024, with many of those staff coming out from our leadership programs, such as our counselor in training. This program develops youth and prepares them for being a counselor prior to turning 15. With the increased camps and number of staff, again, we are able to utilize almost all of our EG facilities and offer camps in all of our 3 wards. This year, we are working on streamlining our active EG membership process for drop-in programs, including resident and non-resident rates and different membership pricing. We will be working with our registration system, ActiveNet, to set up scanners and update the system in preparation for the help. With new equipment and facility space that the help will offer, staff are currently developing new themed birthday parties and options for 2024 and 2025. Staff have seen an increased number of birthday party packages being booked. Our highest number of birthday party packages that were booked was in 2023 with 122. We have currently booked already 72, and we're not even finished Q1. Next slide, please. Okay, so in 2024, the staff will be partnering with the Golden Acres and Mount Albert Friendship Club to provide partnership programming out of the Holland Landing Community Center and the Ross Family Complex. New and exciting bus trips will take place in 2024 to Famous People Players, Ripley's Aquarium, and to the Muskokas for a steamship cruise lunch. With being the successful recipients of the Seniors Community Grant for the 2023-2024 season, we were able to offer subsidized fitness programs, bus trips, and purchase new fitness supplies that would benefit our older adult programming. Staff are currently recruiting to offer a variety of adult programs, which includes parent and child fitness classes, Bali X Fitness, Zumba Gold, and yoga for adults with individuals with exceptionalities, which is really exciting. Next slide, please. Special events. Our special event attendance is continually growing. While staff prepare for the development of an event strategy in 2024, there are a few changes that will be made to the existing town-run events for 2024. Tapestry of Taste will be renamed to Celebrating the Arts, A Taste of Culture, giving more of a focus on the arts and less on food. The event will partner with our Arts and Culture Committee to provide diverse programming and activities. With their continued support and expertise in the arts, we are confident this will be our most successful year yet. Town staff are also looking to have music nights and farmers markets designated as an event of municipal significance for the purpose of providing an additional service at this event. More information will be coming to council in a future meeting. In 2024, the farmers market, a working group of council, will be focused on the following area for 2024: recruitment for a new market programmer, community engagement with representation at the town from town departments, providing the public with town information, programs, services, projects, and initiatives, continued updates to tracking metrics for the market attendance, a new program to support and promote local EG-based farms, and then the overall strategy for the market integrated with the town event strategy. Next slide, please. Okay, in 2024, we look forward to welcoming an increased number of community members into our facilities. We are noticing since COVID, local community groups such as our guides and scouts have required additional meeting space because of their increased number of participants. Staff are developing new relationships and working with organizations to permit out our town facilities. This spring, EG will see its very first gymnastics competition take place on the dry pad, which will bring many clubs from all over Ontario. The Community Engagement and Permitting Coordinator works with the town staff to support the multiple cultural community events like the Lunar New Year celebration, the menorah lighting, and Ramadan. Staff are also permitting out space with various culture groups for their religious gatherings. In 2024, staff will be working with the permitting software ActiveNet to expand our rental spaces into the help, as well as update our facility permitting and allocation policy that will be brought to council in the near future. I would like to thank you again for this opportunity to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have. And thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Do we have, first of all, could I have a mover to accept this presentation? Thank you, Councillor Leahy. Do we have any questions from committee to our presenters? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, and thank you for this presentation, Rhonda. I'm exhausted just thinking about all of the activities that our community has at their fingertips. You mentioned briefly at a very high level sort of some changes you're making to the registration process. I know I've had feedback from people who were feeling the strain of our sort of open door policy for residents from other municipalities taking spots that our residents wanted in our programs because they're so attractive. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your plans are there? Is it just going to be a delayed registration for non-residents, or what's the plan there?
Yes, absolutely, through you, Chair, to Councillor. So yes, we had actually a capital request come through to Council this year to be able to work with ActiveNet. It does need an upgrade and to kind of clean up the back end. Once we do that, we are going to be looking at offering different registration dates for residents, giving them a preferred date versus the non-resident, which is typical throughout the municipalities in York Region, as well as a different fee as well to offset some of the additional costs. And we're looking to do that also with our memberships. We have some drop-in programs that are very popular, and we do recognize that some of those are external or non-residents, so we will be looking at bringing that into our memberships as well.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, just from myself, knowing after listening to that presentation, it's evident just how busy you are. But also, the Parks and Recreation Department is very much the public-facing element of the town, and you're great ambassadors for us. A lot of other things that go on in the background that our public don't necessarily interact with equally as important, but you folks really are the ambassadors for the town. So thank you for the hard work and good stuff that you do for us. Having said all that, if there's no other questions, I'll call the vote. We have it moved by Councillor Leahy. All those in favour? Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Carmazin, do you have anything else for committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does committee have anything for Mr. Carmazin? Seeing none, I will pass the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And we are now at item J, Development Services, with Councillor Roy-DiClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 3 prepared items on our agenda today. The first being report DS 2023-03, proposed process to address community infrastructure and housing accelerator requests. Ms. Bégin, I'll let you introduce this item for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have a report today seeking council direction on a process to be able to review and approve this new the use of this new tool, which is the Community-Initiated Housing Accelerator tool. It's similar in structure to a ministerial zoning order. This new tool was introduced as part of Bill 109 and achieved royal assent in April of 2022. The difference between it and the more typical ministerial zoning order is that it requires greater community engagement and is initiated by a resolution of council requesting that it be considered. So in order to be able to evaluate this tool, we've prepared some thoughts on how to look at this and determine whether or not an application is appropriate for consideration. So I'll turn it over to our Director of Planning Policy and Growth Management, Jack Crubbitt, to talk a little bit more about it.
Take it away.
Thank you very much. And hello, good to see you, members of council. And so this report does try to set a framework for staff and council to address the conditions under which the town would entertain what we call a CIHA, or Community Infrastructure and Housing Accelerator tool. This is a tool provided to us by the province to, in essence, expedite approvals on a certain type of development. And as well, the report proposes a process for managing a CIHA application and how we might process it through the town. So I'm here to take questions of council on this report.
Thank you. I forgot to get a mover, so may I have a mover, please? Councillor Crone. So now we've got it on the table. Do members of committee have any questions? We're a quiet bunch. Okay, Councillor Carruthers, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to get some clarification on how the CIHA process still protects the environment. I want to make sure that we're very clear that by using this process, we're not jumping over any environmental protections.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I think one thing that the CIHA does is that it's a tool which opens up or tries to kind of offer a little bit more transparency to the process. So in doing that, there is a public notification process. There's also a public consultation process in which elements like that may be introduced to council or to staff and be reviewed. Now, as well, if there are any types of kind of agreements related to a CIHA as well, items around the environment can also be directed back to staff or included with agreements that the CIHA is bound by.
So we can be very clear to residents that there is no environmental, the environment's not being shortchanged in the review process. If we choose to go with the CIHA, the environment's still being protected. I just want to be very clear because that's the thing that we hear the most about it.
Sure. Sorry, I'll perhaps
Ms.
let
Béger.
Ms. Béger answer.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. It is a little bit of uncharted territory as it is a new tool. It was designed to be able to overwrite or, replace local policy, which would not necessarily include environmental policy. So if there were changes to anything that was considered to be provincial policy, we're not entirely sure at this point how that would be addressed by the ministry. But the intent is not necessarily to circumvent environmental objectives, but really to be able to implement something more quickly and to be able to get around local policy that might slow down an application potentially.
So if we chose at our level, at the local level, to go with a CIHA, there could be ramifications at the provincial level for the environment.
Through you, Madam Chair, potentially, we don't really know what the minister would or would not approve. If the challenge is, or if the CIHA seeks to overwrite provincial policy, that would be determined by the ministry. And assuming that they would, in their initial review of whether or not to accept the CIHA application, they would look at what policy it's meant to address. So we haven't really seen any instances of where provincial policy has been considered as part of a CIHA application. It's typically, in the examples that have been used in the region, it's been around local policy.
Okay, thank you.
So perhaps Ms. Béger or Mr. Krivik, you could give us some examples of municipalities who have used this tool since it's a brand new one. I guess it's challenging to me because I'm seeing in the report that it's, you can't deviate from the official plan. That's a key part of the tool. Is it really just meant to jump over the procedural parts of getting an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw and a site plan process through and just hit the gas pedal instead of just, cruising like you normally would? Or in what context would we use this?
Through you, Madam Chair, with regards to the environment as well, it's not really intended to be in areas such as the Greenbelt or the Oak Ridges Moraine. So those are considerations with a CHIA. It's certainly, though, there are areas perhaps with a regional official plan or a town official plan where we feel maybe a policy can be superseded for a kind of an end result that we feel is kind of acceptable or desirable. That may be around height for a certain area. It may be around a type of housing within a certain area that's not typically provided, or it may be around an area such as long-term care or institutional uses that may typically not be permitted in certain places. So that's where we would probably find, as a municipality, most value in kind of pursuing a CHIA. And the good part about the CHIA request is that it does rely on on single-tier municipalities or lower-level municipalities to make that request. So it has to be initiated at our level.
If I'm just a moment, Councillor Crone. If it's initiated by ourselves, how does it differ from that of an MZO? Because as I understand it, the province was pretty vocal in saying we're not going to pass an MZO unless the local council has requested it or has expressed support. So how would it differ from that? And I guess the bigger question is, even if we do adopt this framework, council is still able to decline an application and say, no, we don't think it qualifies. Correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Certainly, it would have to be a resolution passed by council that we would then bring to the minister. In terms of perhaps some of the nuances or differences between an MZO and the CHIA, certainly MZO has been around for quite some time. I think one of the biggest differences is that a minister can choose to initiate an MZO, whereas the CHIA does rely on a resolution by council to start or initiate that process. The other one is around really communication and perhaps the lack of public outreach with an MZO process. Certainly some municipalities have tried to outline how they would like an MZO process to work, but that's not always the way it does end up working. So the CHIA certainly does attempt to address some of those issues around transparency and public consultation and bringing a CHIA request to the kind of public venue and making people aware of what's happening.
Thank you. Councillor Crone, you had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You were kind of going where I was going. Just to maybe simplify it, if I look at this in my own perspective, we have three avenues that we can take. There's the normal municipal process on one side, and then on the other side there is the MZO, which is kind of like the sledgehammer process, and then down the center we have the CHIA. Is that kind of, it's a little more moderate? Is that, if we were to put it in simplified terms, is that accurate?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that's probably fair to say. It's a little bit less heavy-handed than an MZO maybe.
Okay. So you're the expert, and thank you very much for preparing this report because it helped bring me a lot of understanding to the CHIA process. I couldn't help but think the whole time with the Chia Pet commercial ringing in my head as I'm reading it. But you're the expert. We rely on you for your advice. What is it about this particular avenue that worries you, that keeps you up, if it keeps you up at night, or what are some of your strong concerns that you would have on this? Because it's all relatively new to us. So I'd like to hear from you what your concerns are. Thank you.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair, there's I guess it would be around how far we are trying to circumvent regional or town official plans and also provincial policies. So they are in place for an intended purpose, and I think if we try to circumvent those intended purposes, it has to be for a greater good that we all feel comfortable and are on the same wavelength about.
Okay, so if I may, Madam Chair, so if we are, to that point, the province has the ultimate sign-off on this, so they ultimately would have to be okay with it as well. Is that is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, and perhaps Ms. Bégin could add to
Yes.
that.
Sure.
Ms. Bégin, you want to contribute there? Thank you.
Thank you. Just, yes, it is the province that will ultimately initially make a determination of whether or not an application is appropriate to be considered under this process. And then, you know, if so, then would also make a determination on whether or not the application can be successful. But the other thing I wanted to note in terms of considerations is that while it does offer greater transparency, it downloads the responsibility for a consultation to the municipality. So that's just something to be aware of, that that the consultation requirements are now, in terms of public consultation, Indigenous consultation, all of that stuff has to be delivered by the municipality, as opposed to necessarily the applicant or whomever.
Thank you, Ms. Bégin. Go ahead, Councillor Crone.
I'm really taking up my time limit here, sorry. My first question, we kind of clarified the three avenues. Because we haven't talked about it for a while, does strong mayor powers enter into this at all? Because there is a section about provincial priorities, so I want to make sure we don't muddy it any more than we have to.
Through you, Madam Chair, I probably couldn't appropriately.
I think you just did.
Yeah, I probably couldn't appropriately answer that question at this time. I'm not sure if Ms. Bégin could add to that, but I don't think I've properly familiarized myself with those strong mayor powers in relation to the CIHA.
So what it sounds like to me is that perhaps we could have a little bit of a look-see into this, and if and when this passes and it comes back to us for ratification at council, then we can perhaps answer that question in order to keep things moving. Councillor Johns, you've been quiet this morning. You good out there in the ether?
I am. I just feel like everybody's heard enough of me the last 3 months, so it's okay for me to take a pause.
Roger that. Any other questions from members of committee? Seeing none, we have a motion moved by Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And staff, you've noted that we'd like to just have an understanding of this within the context of strong mayors. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a report regarding site plan approval for Holland Green Developments, which is the southeast corner of Dogwood Boulevard and Highway 11, and it's file SPA 2204. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Foster, may I ask? Thank you. Councillor Foster has moved that, and I will pass the microphone over to Ms. Bégin to introduce this one, please, and thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, this site plan application has been before council. The proponents provided a presentation detailing their plans for the development, which includes a variety of housing types, mixed use, and some institutional uses as well. And our manager of planning is here to answer any detailed technical questions that members of committee may have.
Okay. Members of committee, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Carruthers.
When do we suspect that servicing would be allocated?
Servicing.
Through you, Madam Chair, we don't have an anticipated timeline for that. We would, once the matters regarding the municipal allocation reserve have been clarified, then we know that we'll have some allocation that is at council's discretion to assign. So at this point, we anticipate that the applicants would likely request to have allocation for at least a first phase, but I think we need to have sort of clarity on the composition of the municipal allocation reserve before they can do that.
Thank you.
So just further to that, I know, Ms. Bégin, this is more of a team effect. So Mr. Valchich or Ms. Ingram, we had a conversation about this in December, and we were told that we would hear back in January. Do we have a status update on the interpretation of our reserve?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the timeline is imminent for an opinion on that, those questions that were asked in December.
So if I may, will it be the next meeting? Will it be our April meeting? That I'm assuming that you're preparing a memorandum or a report of opinion.
Yes, I am preparing the memo, a legal opinion, in fact, on the matter, which has morphed into a couple of issues. So that will be brought back, I'm not certain, maybe Mr. Balcha can address the timing and the venue for bringing it back to you.
Mr. Valchich?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Through you, we'll report back in the next cycle or two of meetings, and depending on the content, we'll determine the appropriate venue for bringing that back to you.
Okay, thank you. And just further to Councillor Carruthers' question, she was asking when allocation might be available. I know that the report says it's the entire application is 215 SDEs. Do we have a sense of how much the first phase would be in order to just get them started? Ms. Moore?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the entire development is a little over 500 residential units. Those are apartment units, but it's my understanding from the applicant that in order to proceed with the first phase, for it to make financial sense, they would require 215 SDEs, which would allow construction of approximately 300 units.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, members of committee, any other questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that we receive the report, that we grant conditional approval of the site plan application, and will delegate final approval to the General Manager of Development Services once the condition regarding servicing allocation is satisfied, and that we authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the required site plan agreement, including any and all documents and ancillary agreements required. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. The third item on our agenda is a request from staff of a report regarding an intention to designate under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The address is 19081 Yonge Street. Ms. Bégin, would you like to introduce this item for us, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. This report refers to the property known as the William James Sloan House, and this request to designate has the support of our Heritage Advisory Committee as well as the homeowner themselves, and our Manager of Planning is also available to speak to any technical questions that may arise.
Thank you. I also neglected to ask for a mover. I'm assuming that Councillor Foster, you would like to move this one, given your liaison to the committee. Members of committee, any questions? It's a beautiful home. Go ahead, Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to support this. I think it's the right thing to do. We talk, and Councillor Foster will back me up on this. We talk about our heritage. The homes that come to us, they are of heritage value, but we're not supporting them in any way financially to maintain it. And so when we have somebody that willfully, wants to go and protect their home, have it designated, I'm going to say something controversial here. I think we need to do something more than just do this to recognize it. But I know a lot of municipalities actually offer a discount on the property taxes because they are spending that kind of money to maintain a heritage home. So I think that's something we should consider for future budget considerations. So I'll leave that for you to mull over, Mr. Marshall, our treasurer. But I'm quite happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and I know that that sort of consideration is part of is part of the work that's being done on the overall heritage strategy. Is how do we support those property owners who are doing right by the property. Councillor Carruthers, I saw your hand go up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how happy I am to see this. It's so refreshing after years of taking things off the list to see something officially designated. Very happy with that, and I would support Councillor Crone's comments about what more can we do to help. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just worth saying with this property that it is it's a beautiful home. We did a plaquing exercise last summer, which took some of the members of the Heritage Advisory Committee and some members of council to that property, and it's you're kind of in awe when you walk in and have a look at the place. The owners are extremely proud of this, so I'm very, very happy that we can move this one forward, and hopefully if this one's done right and we bring the amount of information forward, maybe we can get some other people to be proud of their properties also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. So I have a motion as presented that we move ahead with designation. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our prepared agenda. Ms. Bégin, did you have anything further to raise under this area?
Nothing further this time, Madam Chair.
Members of committee, anything further? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We are now on item K, Engineering and Public Works, with Councillor Hay in the chair.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. The first item, we have two items on the agenda today, and the first item is a water summary report from the Town of East Gwillimbury Drinking Water Systems. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Crone, thank you very much. The report is moved by Councillor Crone. General Manager Molinari, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So the 2023 water summary report, it's a requirement that staff bring a report or a memo or provide that summary to council every year by March 31, and staff do that on an annual basis. We also, throughout the year, we provide standard of care bulletins to keep council updated on the performance of the water system. Also like to note that our systems are audited annually, sometimes multiple times annually, and they've been doing so since the Walkerton tragedy many years ago. So there's a lot of scrutiny and a lot of eyes on our water system, and rightly so, in order to ensure that we're providing good quality potable water to our residents. So this year our overall compliance score was 96.4% by the MECP, and the item that was found to be in non-compliance was generally administrative in nature, and at no point really had anything to do or created any situation that caused concerns for the system. We've conducted about 6,000 water samples in 2023. We had some adverse water quality incidents, about 24. All the incidents were reported and resolved to the section of the MECP. And those incidents are somewhat new to our system and generally have a lot to do with the new issues with regards to the water quality and flushing that we've experienced in the last 2 years. And on that, the town continues to work with the region on setting up a program and a study and the terms of reference and an RFP to be able to define that a little bit better and get some answers so that we can work to minimize flushing and restore the same type of robust water quality that the town had a couple of years back. So we also normally report on non-revenue water as part of the summary report. Just because we've had a number of staff vacancies over the past few months unexpectedly, we weren't able to provide that information as part of this report, but we will come back with a report that provides that information, and it actually gives us a little bit of time to get a little further along with that work assignment with the region and be able to potentially give a little bit of a roadmap as to where we are and what we see as potential solutions going forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, General Manager Molinari. Are there any questions or comments from members of committee? Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Molinari. First of all, I think it should be noted, it might have been said earlier, but since the Walkerton tragedy, the way that the law has changed, many of us in this room, certainly on this table, we're liable criminally if our water is not up to high standards, and if people are hurt or die, we can actually go to prison for it. So we take this seriously. I think that needs to be stated publicly. Of course, I will never let an opportunity go by to ask about water quality in our town. I know that's a #1 complaint that we get from a lot of our residents. What can you tell us about what's happening with water quality? I know we've got issues in Mount Albert. I know we also have it in other areas of the town as well. It's not just significant to us in Mount Albert, but what could you tell us, Mr. Molinari, about the steps the region? I know it's not us, it's the region. What are they doing to help us out to improve that quality?
Well, and through you, Madam Chair, there's a number of items depending on which water system. So in the Mount Albert system in particular, there is a plan in place to do some upgrades at the plant that would eliminate some of the chemical or some of the elements that are in the water that are causing some of those aesthetic issues. So when we say water quality, it's not that it's an issue to potable water, it's an aesthetic value. So the water quality has always been good, it's always been safe to drink, but there are sometimes odors and other items related to iron and phosphorus particularly, that manganese that create some issues in that area. So the region, it's like any large capital project, these things take time to design and then build, and so that facility is currently being designed through funding through the developers to upgrade that plant, which will ultimately remove some of those elements and improve the aesthetic water quality for residents in Mount Albert. And if we look at the town-wide, in Sharon and Queensville, et cetera, we are also looking at improvements to the water system with the region. Those are somewhat more longer-term solutions, though.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. I know we look forward to the day that we have those improvements. If I may, just one last comment. Anytime I get these reports on water, I always think about what other towns are doing. They have water fill stations that they put out to commercial clients. So anything we can do to investigate having more of those to generate revenue that is not dependent on the resident, I think is a good thing. So I just throw it out to you again, if we can explore them. I had the need for a tanker truck to come to my place last summer, and the guy that got it went to Stouffville to fill the truck. And I would have rather he filled it with, East Gwillimbury water, and we could have received some of that revenue. But I throw that out for your consideration for future budgets. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we actually do have a water fill station on Bales. It's actually the cheapest one in the area. It's the best deal in town. So
let's advertise that.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Roy-DiClemente?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to, but since Councillor Crone opened the door, the the issues with aesthetics are now affecting our results with the MECP. And, you know, the fact that we're having negative results, as you said, they're new to us, and they're related to the fact that there's chlorine residuals and there's aging in the system, and we're having to flush. It's now affecting our scores with our drinking water system. So I know that we're working on it. What can we do to give a sense of urgency on this? Because we're now, well, I think we're into our second year now of pounding this table about it. What can we do to kind of push things a little further, a little faster?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I guess two things. With regards to our scores, we have had more incidents with lower residual than we normally do. For years, we had one incident or no incidents, and this year we've had about 24.
Yes.
Those aren't that didn't necessarily impact our score for the 96. That we actually, just because of the way the months fell, we had one sample short of what we should have had, and I think it was in the month of August. So that's more of an administrative item. We have, I mentioned, 6,000 samples, so we were shy by a sample, which caused us to lose our 100% score. So it's a bit of an anomaly, and administratively we've just now amended our process so that we don't have that particular anomaly again. So that didn't necessarily, so that was the cause for the drop from 100 to 96. In terms of the lower residuals, those are somewhat new for us, but they are not impacting our score, and it is something that that is being managed. Like out of all of those, they were all properly dealt with the MECP. There was no issues, and etc. But our flushing that we're doing is responsible for making sure that our water system is safe to drink. So we have no choice but to flush, and it really comes down to finding a way to minimize that flushing in the same way that we did in Bales Drive, and the same way we did in the Green Lane area a couple of years back. So it's and I know in our last report I used the word complex 10 times, and it's because it is complex, and so we are in the process of finalizing that RFP with the region. We'll issue that. We'll get some expert consultants, very specialized consultants on board, who can look at water chemistry and see how that chemistry from Lake Ontario versus well water is interacting, and see what we can do to try and keep that water from degrading as quickly as it is right now. So where are we? That's kind of where we're at in terms of the process. We expect to hopefully get that out, let the consultants do some modeling, and start getting some answers, or at least some direction, initial thoughts, et cetera, later on this year, to start resolving. This is a long-term issue that Newmarket's been dealing with this for close to a decade. We're hoping to put this on and take this on and get this done in a couple of years. So hopefully this year we'll start seeing some of the results of that. It's likely to be an expensive study, but this is a large problem, and to be able to do it properly, it will cost a few dollars, but at the end of the day, we're also spending a fair bit of money on the flushing. So by reducing that flushing, spending money to reduce long-term flushing is money well spent.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Through you, Madam Chair. Just further, obviously we're well aware, pun intended, of the materials cost of having to flush and take drinking water and flush it down into our drains. But now that we've got these adverse results, we're now seeing an operational cost, and so this is, for lack of a better word, it's even more complex, and it's more costly to us, and so that's why I'm getting more and more concerned, because I've been sitting here for quite some time as well and hearing about these issues. So I'd like to have them resolved as well. Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, just one last comment. I forgot to mention that in terms of urgency, we've been holding funds back on this overall on on the payments to the region, that has actually created a very, as our treasurer knows, that's actually created a very large sense of urgency. So both the town and the region are working very collaboratively and as quickly as we can to get this matter resolved.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? I would like to make a comment and to thank General Manager Molinari for his overview and for making it clear that that our reduction from 100% was administrative in nature, as he said in his overview, and that there will be a report coming likely later in the fall from the consultants, and that you are strategically and very actively and efficiently working on resolving and solving some of these complexities. So thank you very much for that. I would like to, seeing no further questions, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented? And the motion is carried. Item number 2 on the agenda is the Mosquito Control Program report. And so I would like to have a mover for this, please. Mayor Haxon, thank you very much. And so General Manager Molinari, do you have any comments about the Mosquito Control Program?
Yes, and through you, Madam Chair. So the 2023 mosquito control program was a success to reduce mosquito populations in the town. The region also treats for mosquitoes in the spring and summer months as part of their West Nile virus program, including treating standing water on both private and public property. And they also treat ditches, catch basins, stormwater ponds as part of that West Nile virus program. So in 2023, there was one positive mosquito trap for West Nile virus in EG, which kind of fluctuates from year to year. But obviously, it's still an issue, but it's not as large an issue as we've seen in previous times. And planning is now underway for the town's regular 2024 program. Notices have already been delivered to residents. The MEC permit application's underway. And because of this year, it's been so warm, the program's probably going to start a little bit earlier than what we normally see. So we're going to start monitoring mid-March, and it may happen a little bit sooner than other years. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from members of committee? Councillor Foster.
Thank you. Mr. Molinari, I think we've had this conversation before, but it was a while ago. Without the municipality getting into the business of selling a product, is there something out there that we can endorse to private property owners who would like to buy something simple so they can treat their own standing water? I'm just not sure where we went with that conversation last time. If you could give me an update.
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. In order to apply larvicide, you have to have a license. So that's kind of where that gets problematic. If residents are concerned, one of the best ways is to make sure there's no standing water. So try and remove those. So if you have a tire in the backyard that's collecting water, those are actually one of the worst items to deal with. Or if there's water that's just happened to be sitting around, try and direct that to a gardener. Do something to try and eliminate those that water. If it's not possible, there's always the ability to contact the region, and through their West Nile virus program, there may be a way through them to be able to get that treated. But I think the easiest way is just, in the vast majority of cases, it's simply a matter of putting a cover over something that may trap water, or eliminating that water from being able to stand in that spot.
Thank you. I've had the question from a few residents, and I was pretty sure I was giving them the right information. Just wanted to verify. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Carruthers, you have a question?
Thank you. Further to Councillor Foster's comments, I know you can buy pucks to go into your rain barrels, so I know that's available. So I'm wondering if there's something like that we could be offering, or at least offering advice and where to purchase these, because I know a lot of people have rain barrels, and I believe that's quite the source as well.
Yeah, it can be. I'm not sure how effective those are. We could look into that and see if that is a feasible item. If they're the pool pucks, that's also chlorine that's in them. I'm not sure.
No,
if
it's insecticide.
Oh, an insecticide
It's a
puck.
mosquito larvae killer that goes into the rain barrels.
Yeah, we can look into that. If there's something, we'll put that on our website as a viable option. I'm not sure off the top of my head how good that would be, but we'll look into that and get it on our website if it's feasible.
Thank you. That would be good to know.
Yeah.
I'd save myself some money if they're not doing anything.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from members of committee? Seeing no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented? Thank you very much, and the motion is carried. Are there any other further questions from members of committee for General Manager Molinari, as this brings us to the end of the prepared agenda? General Manager Molinari, do you have any further comments or updates?
Nothing further at this time, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the chair back to Mayor Haxon.
Thank you very much. Noting there are no prepared items under L to P, we will move to item Q for adjournment. I have Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. That was